Good afternoon and welcome to Webinar Wednesday here at Ignite Selling. This webinar is titled Value. Are you a killer or are you a creator? First off, I want to introduce you guys that are on the line to the Zoom interface that we're using here and give you a little sense as to how you can use this to communicate with us and to make sure that you're hearing the message loud and clear. You'll notice that in your screen, and down at the bottom of your screen, there's a couple of different functions, one of which is the chat function, which allows you to communicate with me or with other people that are online today. It also, there's a button here called lower your hand, raise your hand button. And in fact, just to test this out and to make sure that we've got a functioning system, that everything is working as it should, if I could go ahead and get you guys to click the raise your hand button, just to make sure that you can hear me okay. So go ahead and if you would click that button. All right. Okay, thank you very much. I see some of the hands being raised now. All right, so if you could go ahead and at the same time lower your hand, click the button to lower your hand, and then we'll be kind of back on the reset. So good, glad to hear that I'm coming through loud and clear. And of course, the last button that I want to draw your attention to is this Q&A. As we progress through the webinar today, you might be coming up with some questions that you'd like to have answered. The best way to do that is to submit those questions to me via this Q&A segment. At the end of the webinar, we will be taking a moment to answer some of the questions that are coming in from the audience. So if you could, send me those questions and then we will answer them. If we can't answer them in time, then we'll give you guys a written answer after we're done, okay? In addition to those three areas there, you've also got an audio setting over on your left to help you control the volume, figure out how you're going to get access to the sound and so forth. And then the last thing that I want to draw your attention to is this leave the meeting button. In case you happen to need to walk away, we hope you won't. But when you do, if you need to leave, then click the leave button and you can leave the meeting gracefully. Okay, so that is your Zoom interface that we'll be using. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Kevin Jones. I am the co-founder and COO of Ignite Selling. I'm also the co-author of Premeditated Selling. Now, both Ignite Selling and Premeditated Selling were a conjunction of me and my business partner, Steve Gilda. We worked together to both put that book together, but also to found and to run Ignite Selling. We've been in business now for the past 6 years, but I've been in the performance improvement space for the past 20 years. My current role at Ignite Selling is focusing on content development, so building content, building projects, managing resources, overall business operations at Ignite Selling. All the management of that falls under me. I have an MBA from the University of UNC Chapel Hill and the Keenan Flagler Business School, and currently I live in Asheville, North Carolina. So that's a little bit about me. Let me tell you a little bit about my company. So Ignite Selling is as I mentioned, was co-founded by me and my business partner, Steve Gilda, 6 years ago. Me and Steve and our team comprise over 8 decades of sales coaching, and sales training experience. We essentially created and have been the kind of pioneers of the use of learning maps as a way of driving sales training programs, as well as using competitive capstone simulations for the sales training environment. We tend to take what we would call a modularized approach to our training solutions, building programs in a way that helps us to align what we teach to the business outcomes and business goals of our customers. And over the course of our careers, Steve and I and our team have worked with over 10,000 salespeople worldwide. So we're truly a global organization, not just here in the United States, but really kind of a broad base of geography has been covered. In terms of companies that we work with, here's just a few of our clients that we've been working with over the past few months. You'll notice that our client list comprises a lot of the medical device space. It also has organizations that are in the software and the finance, consulting, equipment manufacturing, and so forth, IT space. So we tend to try to make ourselves as broad as we can in terms of the industries that we work with, and our main focus is on B2B sales and complex selling. Okay, so let's talk about our webinar, where we're going today. So the first thing that we want to do today is introduce you to this tool called the Value Vault. And I'm going to get into that in just a moment. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how you use this Value Vault, how you assess the balance, and then when you look at the balance and it tells you something, what do you do about it? before we jump into these three topics, I want to first off start to stop and say, all right, so selling value, right? This is not a new topic, right? I've been talking about value selling or value-based selling or, creating value since I've been in the sales training space. So why are we still talking about it? Do we need to be still talking about it? And our research, and also the research done by other consulting organizations, basically says a resounding yes. We still need to be talking about value, but we need to be talking about value in a different way. You'll notice that we've got this big stack of red dollar bills over here on the right side of the screen. What we have found in our research is that there is increasing pressure amongst many key stakeholders to improve and to prove ROI on the investments that they make. So they're being held accountable by the people that are above them in the organization to prove an ROI before they make an investment. In a recent research study that was done by Right Management, what was found was that 85% of training executives, now this research study is training focused, 85% of training executives said that they are under increasing pressure to prove ROI of the training initiatives that they invest in, and do it in cash terms. Now, we're hearing that. When we talk to customers, we're actually hearing that. But last week, we worked with a customer who told us, look, I'm being asked by my bosses, if I'm going to spend X number of dollars with Ignite Selling, is it worth it, right? What am I getting for that money? Am I really being able to prove ROI? So we're finding that this is really true in the training space. But when we talk to our customers, we're finding is this is not just a training issue, right? This is going across industries. And it's not just here in the United States, it's happening everywhere. It's a global issue, right? It's everybody seems to be more and more concerned about the ROI that they're getting on investments that they make. To quantifiable impact and being able to prove that quantifiable impact is now becoming a major decision criteria for many of our customers and many of our customers' customers, okay? So now let's talk a little bit about this thing that we're calling a value vault and kind of explain what it is. So the value vault is a metaphor, right? It's a metaphor for a real bank account. So think about your own personal checking account, your own personal savings account. You make deposits in it, right? You get a paycheck, you get a check from your crazy Uncle Bill. You put those things into your bank account and the value starts to build up. That's what deposits do. But then again, you come along and you write a check. You buy a car, you need to pay a bill, you make withdrawals out of that account, and it brings your value down, right? And the ultimate goal of any bank account is to maintain a positive balance throughout the course of its history, right? And hopefully at the end of the day, we walk away with a positive balance. The value vault is essentially like a bank account, but it's something that you keep with your customer. And your customers keep tabs on the amount of value that you have put into it and the amount of value that your solutions withdraw from. And our goal as a salesperson is to build a value vault that has a positive balance. So let's talk about the various components that make this up. There's only two, right? The first one is on the right-hand side. Now, the picture you see here is a learning map that was created to help us teach the value vault concept to our customers. And when we built this out, we looked at the two sides, right? The first side is the value creators. That is the value that we create for our customers. It's the value we bring. It's the good things that our solutions, our services can do for our customers. These things, when we talk about them, create deposits that go into the value vault. The other side of this picture is something that we refer to as the value killers. These are things that take value out of the vault, right? These are things like your price, the problems that come along with putting in your service. It could be it's going to take a long time to implement. It's going to be a painful process. We're going to have some downtime. Those things are withdrawals inside the account. They suck the value out of the vault. And the goal, of course, is to create a situation where your value vault has a positive balance. But let's talk, if we can, about where value killers and value creators actually come from, right? And let's start by looking at that value creator side of this particular picture. Now, you'll notice that at the top of the slide up here, we talk about directly linking the value creator to the income statement. And this is a real important difference between just talking about value and actually quantifying and measuring the value. Is tying value that we create to the income statement of our customers. And there's two easy ways that we can impact the income statement. First way is top line, helping our customers grow their top line revenue. okay, making them better at selling. The second way is by decreasing their cost, therefore improving their bottom line. So you can either improve the top line or you can improve the bottom line, or at least help your customers improve the bottom line. And we're going to talk in depth about each one of these. And let's start by talking about the whole concept of value creation through top line revenue growth. So we work with a medical device company that has a technology that is highly advanced, and it's so advanced that is actually, when hospitals make the investment in it, they're actually getting a competitive edge. And they, of course, when they buy this technology, they want to take advantage of this edge, and they want to market that to the public. So they put up billboards, they go around to doctors' offices, they leave brochures, flyers, advertising the fact that they have this awesome new advanced technology. And the whole purpose of that is that this technology, if they use it right, if they apply it right and they market it right, can actually help the hospitals increase their patient growth and get more people coming in, which in turn will increase revenue. Okay, so they actually believe, and they try to position the value to the customer, that if you invest in my solutions, we can help you grow your top line revenue by bringing in more patients. Now, the other side of the equation is the cost reduction side, right? And that whole purpose there is to increase the bottom line. And you can increase the bottom line by helping people become more efficient, more effective. You can increase the bottom line by reducing waste and eliminating scrap. You can improve processes and workflow. You can eliminate or minimize maintenance costs by having products that, quite frankly, are just more reliable than others. And you can help people work better together. Now, I'm going to go back to my medical device example, and I'm going to tell you about the other side of this particular organization solution. This solution not only can help bring in more patients, but this solution also helps streamline workflow, right? And so the whole purpose of their discussion around this argument would be, we can help you not only bring more patients to your hospital because this technology is there, but we can actually streamflow the work processes in this department so that when the patients come in, they don't have to stay as long. They're more comfortable in the process. And so they actually are able to benefit not only the top line revenue, but they're able to minimize the cost and improve the bottom line. So they're getting what you might call a double whammy on the value creation side of things. Now, all of those things help drive an improved bottom line. Whether or not you're improving the top line or you're reducing costs, the goal there would be to improve the bottom line of the customer's income statement. Now, the question I want to ask you is, I want you to answer this poll. Which part of the client's income statement do your solutions have the greatest impact on? Okay, and I want you to consider this question. So let me go to my first poll and let me relaunch the poll. All right, and I'm going to launch this poll. You should be able to see this question now. Which part of the client's income statement do your solutions have the greatest impact? Top line revenue through increased sales, or bottom line improvements through cost reductions? Take about 10 more seconds to get in your answers. Okay, looks like we've got 100% participation now, so I'm going to end this poll. And I'm going to tell you what the results are. So in this particular poll, what's interesting, and I think it might tell a little bit about the audience that we have here, is that 75% of you felt like you get the greatest gain, or at least you can help your customers achieve the greatest gain on top line. So you can help your customers improve their ability to generate revenue. 25% of you said bottom line through cost reduction. Now, we would fall in, Ignite Selling would certainly fall into the top line as being our number one, but we, like our medical device customer, would also like to try to communicate with our customers and show them a way that we're able to generate, benefits on both sides, the top line and also the bottom line through cost reductions. So thank you very much for participating in that poll. The other thing I want to highlight here is that when we talk about value creators, we talked about hitting the income statement. Sometimes you're not able to monetize the impacts you can bring, right? The things you do can help customers in ways that you just can't put a dollar figure to. Things like morale improvements, making people happier simply because you're bringing in a solution. Giving your customer peace of mind that they can rely upon your ability to deliver. That's still something that's good. It's still something we should get credit for. And then lastly, giving your customer confidence that they can talk to other people, that they can implement the solution, that it's going to hit the timelines, hit the budget, All of those things are good, but they're really hard to put a number figure on, right? Really hard to put a dollar figure to. But you need to get credit for them, and you need to put them in your vault. You need to be able to capture them on the value creation side of your value vault. Okay. Now let's talk about the second side of that vault, and that is the value killers. And again, we're going to look at how value killers impact the income statement. And again, the same thing is applied. It's either top line or it's bottom line. The things that your products do can have a negative effect, right? And one of them is going to be decreasing sales. Some products, some things and services that you'll bring in actually make it harder for your customer to hit their sales targets. And so it makes their sales go down. You could also negatively impact costs. In fact, if you think about it, your product comes with a price tag. If it's a $10,000 price tag, guess what? Your product costs $10,000. It's going to have a $10,000 cost impact. That goes in the vault. That gets calculated as part of the equation. Okay, so let's dive into this in just a little more detail. All right, so revenue impact. As we mentioned to you, your solutions, in some solutions, could have a negative impact on the customer's ability to increase revenue. We hear this, and I'm gonna share with you a kind of a personal story about Ignite Selling and one of the challenges we face. When we're talking with customers, we will hear customers say, look, if pulling people out of the field for training for 2 days is really tough, because if I pull them out of the field for 2 days, they're gonna not be out there selling, right? They're gonna be lost productivity, lost sales, decreasing revenue, right? So I can't ignore that. It's real, it exists, it's true. Now I'm hoping that I'm able to generate and create enough value to overcome that, but I at least need to consider that there is maybe just hopefully a short-term decrease in sales because they're coming out of the field for 2 days and they're gonna miss out on opportunities, okay? So revenue impact is real, hopefully it's short-term, and hopefully it's something we can overcome with some of the other value we create. Cost, on the other hand, could be things like, decreasing, some of the things where I can impact costs is I could actually cause bottlenecks. My solutions could actually be, make people run into bottlenecks inside their system. It could decrease and increase people's inefficiencies. We worked with a number of clients who've implemented a CRM system, something like salesforce.com. And I don't know how many times we've heard people say that, oh man, this solution that we're implementing, my people are actually less efficient, at least in the short run, while they're learning how to use this system. It's really killing us on the efficiency side. Those things get put into the vault. Those things are quantifiable. They're measurable. They impact the customer. They need to be considered. Waste, just paperwork building up, issues that you're causing your customer, your solutions could potentially bring, can all impact your customers in a big way, and in a way that is measurable, and in a way that impacts the income statement. In addition to all these things that impact the income statement, you've also got these things that we refer to as, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that FUD factor that kind of gets to people's minds, particularly later in the process. They don't have a number to them, right? They're not burning real money, but boy, if a customer says to you, I'm scared, right? I'm scared about implementing the solution because if I do it, I'm going to look bad if it doesn't go right. Well, is that a $10,000 fear? Is that a $50,000 fear? Is that a $20 fear? How big of a fear is it? Can we put a number to it? It's kind of hard, but it's not something that can be completely ignored, right? You have to consider the customer's fear. Now, all of these killers and all these creators is what helps build the value that resides in your vault, okay? So that's what builds up that number. That's what puts those elements in. And our job is to try as best we can to assess the value and to work to make it more positive at the end of the day. So that brings us to our second topic, right? Which, if you look back at our 3 topics, the value vault, what is it? Well, it's comprised of value killers and value creators. What's your balance? How do you measure it? That's what we're getting ready to talk about. And then, of course, last piece will be how to use this tool. So what is your balance? Well, before we go there, let's just talk about why you need to know it. Because we oftentimes have we've been selling for a long time. We've gone through life, and we probably don't think about quantifying numbers and what does exist in this little metaphorical vault. But you really do need to know and actually have written down and quantified and put it to paper what does the balance look like. And one of the reasons is to stop assuming. Our research and experience say that salespeople have a bad habit of overestimating the value that they've created and underestimating value killers. This is why salespeople get surprised when price concerns pop up late in the process. because they've overestimated the value they bring. They've underestimated the value killers. I don't know how many salespeople I've heard say, gosh, I really thought I had that one in the bag, and then the customer decided either not to do anything or to do something with somebody else. There's where you get into your assuming piece. So by having those numbers, you can stop assuming. Second thing is you can take action. You can develop a strategy to address the situation. If your balance is negative, it doesn't mean that you should just pack up your bags, declare bankruptcy, and go home. It means you can do something about it. Or you can look at the situation, build a strategy, and say, you know what, I don't think this is an opportunity that I can win, in which case then I do leave. But at least by knowing it, you don't make those assumptions. You don't waste time, chasing opportunities that are never going to be real. So there are 3 keys to building and assessing your value. Okay, the first key is that the balance in your value vault changes over time, over the course of the customer's journey. And the customer's perception of what's valuable changes over that time. So you need to adjust how you act, right? So think about early in the sales process, early in the customer's journey. Customers generally react to needs. Customers have an issue and they look to solve a problem. And they a lot of times call you up and say, look, I have a problem. Can you help me solve it, and how much does it cost? Well, we ask a little bit of questions, we understand the need, and then we say, yeah, we can help you address that problem. Here's the cost. It's a $10,000 fix. Well, guess what you just did? You just took $10,000 out of the value vault. Now, I don't know what you put in it, right? But you took $10,000 out because that's what your solution costs. Early in the process, you create value by identifying the customer's needs, linking solutions to them, but even more so than this is actually quantifying those needs, building an awareness of the impact of those needs, and putting numbers to the problem. Okay, customers recognize they have a problem. They might not have actually put numbers to understand exactly how big of a problem is. As you step through the next stages of your journey, you'll find that the things change, right? You've got a value vault. My competitor's got a value vault. Competitor C's got a value vault. Everyone's got a value vault. And if you start thinking about what happens in the middle part, you're not alone. You're competing with other providers, other solution providers, and they built up a vault similar to yours, but the balance looks different. So you've got a vault that looks like this one. These guys got a lot of gold in their vault. In fact, so much that they're having to shovel their way through it, and one person's sitting and being buried in gold. If you take a look at another vault, you've got some gold bars and you got some dollar bills, and of course the vault that you've built up has got money just pouring out of it. And I don't know if those are ones or those are 100s or what. So the question then becomes in the middle stages of the journey is whose vault is bigger? We've all built a vault. Who's got more value in it? Because what we have to do in the middle part to differentiate ourselves and to create value is to show how we meet decision criteria better than our competitors do. Okay, and to build a value vault that has a balance, not just that's positive, but that is actually more positive than that of our competition. As you continue to progress into the late stages, the customers start to narrow their focus, right? They start to kind of hone in and start to getting close to make a decision, but then they look out and they look at something that looks like this, right? It's a scary walk across that bridge. And if I take that journey with you, things might not go the way I'm hoping that they're going to go. And so I have to really have the confidence that this bridge is going to hold me and is going to be able to make sure that I can make it across without putting me in jeopardy. And so here in the late stages is where we have to really help our customers manage their fear, manage their uncertainty, and take that doubt out of the equation to get them to go ahead and act. So it's similar to being a guide or being a helper to Indiana Jones. And those of you familiar with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, you might recall he was getting close to the end of the quest, and he was standing at the edge of a cliff looking down at the abyss thinking, oh man, do I really want to take this next step? Because he can't jump, it's too far. But his book is telling him, hey, just walk. You just have to have a little faith. Well, a lot of times we as salespeople are trying to tell our customers, have faith in us. But we have to be able to prove to our customers, give them enough evidence that will enable them to take that step and to help guide them through. And that's what's happening in the later stages of the process. Okay, and quantifying a value vault and putting numbers to it and knowing the balance and being able to show them the balance can give the customer the confidence that they need to take these next steps. So second key to assessing your balance. And this one is really, really important, and that is that deposits and withdrawals must be made with a common currency. So what is that common currency? Well, we know that one of the currencies that we're working with is based on our price. And every product that I've ever sold has a price, and every product that I've ever sold has a price tag that is a dollar figure, right? It's a dollar and cents, or if you take it overseas, it could be a British pound or it could be a euro, but it's currency, it's money. And so when we think about a common measurement tool, we really have to be aware that apples don't equal oranges, right? Apples don't equal bananas. Apples don't equal sports cars. Apples sometimes, when you look into the grocery store, don't even equal apples. And so we've got to try to build a currency that is consistent, that is common, that you can actually do a comparison and you can say, look, I know we're talking about time, but in this case, we're going to show you that time actually equals money. Time is an impact on your income statement. So in fact, we're going to take a couple of examples and to show you converting to cash, how time does equal something. And so we give an example here of productivity gains, right? If my solution can show you how I'm going to save you 5 hours every week, and you know that 5 hours or 1 hour costs $50 for every hour, that means that every week I'm going to save you $250 every week. Multiply 250 times 52 weeks in a year, 56 weeks in a year, I can't remember which it is, and you get about $14,000 in productivity gains. So time is equal to money. Take a look at another one. Turnover is also equal to money. If my solutions can help reduce your turnover by 2%, which equates to, in your case, 2 employees a year, and every employee that you hire costs you about $50,000 to hire them, that means I'm going to save you $100,000 in annual savings. That is taking turnover and relating it to money. Now I'm comparing apples to apples. Okay, so common currency is a key element. A third key C in assessing your balance is that you have to think about where you're calculating your balance from. Calculating your balance is a waste of time if the customers don't buy your numbers, right? You can build the best equation in the world. If your customer doesn't believe your numbers, guess what? Your value vault is meaningless. So you have to have a value vault that is built on numbers that your customers actually believe in. So the question is, what do customers believe? What will a customer believe? And that's what this next poll is going to ask you to consider. So I'm going to present 4 statements, and I'm going to ask you to consider which quantifiable value assessment do you think your customer is most likely to believe or to commit to. So let me go ahead and get ready to launch poll number 2. All right, so I'm going to give you, since you got to read a little bit here, I'm going to give you about 20 seconds to launch, to go through and complete poll number 2. So take a moment to do that. Okay, looks like we're getting close to having everybody in. Got one more coming in, a few more coming in. All right, I'm going to get in the poll in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about these results. So interestingly enough, when you look at the number 1 answer was number 1, proven captured ROI from a similar company with similar issues. 50% of you felt like that was the most believable number. 33% of you felt like it was the hypothetical assessment shared by the users. So the last one on our list, hypothetical assessment of value quantification shared by the users of the potential solution. So the users kind of make that really resonate. And then 17% of you actually felt like the salesperson, an experienced salesperson presenting numbers, was a compelling piece. I'm going to be interested to see. I would be interested to see if you still agree with that based when we kind of show you our next slide piece. So how do you know a politician is lying? And let's just change politician to how do you know a salesperson's lying? Any of you know the punchline of this joke? It's if their lips are moving, right? So if you know a salesperson's lying, if their lips are moving. Yet we have this old trust me. So there's this proverb, this old selling proverb that says, if you say it, they will doubt it, but if they say it, then it's true. And so our whole purpose in this is to try to work with credibility and to create numbers that are credible and build a value balance and value vault balance that our customers believe. The only way we can do that is if we build it with data that really comes from the customer, right? Credible data comes from the customer. Guesstimates that you put in can work if you begin with a customer's guesstimate. Start there. If you can provide evidence, like companies, for example, would be good evidence, But it'd be best if the customers could talk to them, get their insights, ask questions, challenge, make it their own. Then you're going to get way more credible numbers, because in the end, the customer has to believe your balance. Okay. All right. So we've talked about the value vault. We told you about value killers, value creators. We talked about the balance, the 3 keys to building and understanding what your balances are. You know, making sure that you build with a common currency, making sure that you have. So three keys to it would be consider that you that how value changes over time from the beginning of the cycle or beginning of your customer's buying journey to the end. The common currency issue, you got to deal with apples to apples. You got to make sure it's a believable number is number 3. So those are how to assess your balance. And the question is now, what do you do with this tool? What do you do with the picture that it tells you? And so I want to talk about 2 parts, right? When the picture looks good, the first thing we got to do is validate it, because does it look good because we want it to look good, or does it look good because the customer really believes it looks good? The value vault has to be seen from the eyes of the customer. Is it positive from the eyes of the customer? And so we need to validate it. Second thing we need to do is we need to be open and aware to what those last minute changes could be. What happens if your competition comes in and offers you offers your customer a 20% discount? Your value vault doesn't change. Your value vault continues to stay the same. But what does change is your competitor's value vault. And so when you compare you versus them, that comparison now is different. So you got to be aware of those last minute changes. The third piece is, if your value vault is positive, then you need to have confidence, right? Have confidence in the numbers that you have created. Have confidence in that you can stand strong on those numbers, particularly if the customer has given you those numbers and believes them. And if you have that confidence, then you really have to ask yourselves, do you need any last minute concessions? Do you need to kind of walk away and give a discount if you know the customer asked for it in the last minute? If you believe in your numbers, you may be able to hold firm on those things. What happens though when the picture doesn't look so good, when the vault's empty or has a negative balance? First off, try to find value creators and quantify the ones that you've already found, right? A lot of times we have them, but we haven't put good real numbers to them. And so we have to build up the awareness of those value creators that we've created. There will be some value creators, quite frankly, that your customer is never going to give you 100% credit for. They're going to say, yeah, I can see how you might improve some efficiencies, but we're doing other things as well. We're implementing other processes that are going to drive efficiency improvements. So I'm not going to give you 100% credit for what you can do, because other things are going to help as well. Well, what credit will you give me? Right? What kind of credit will you give me? Take whatever you can get. Partial credit is better than no credit at all. And then, of course, you got to understand and ID the value killers, right? As I mentioned earlier, salespeople tend to underestimate the impact of the value killers that are out there. Someone says to you, I'm concerned, I'm really worried about this. Again, is it a $5 concern? Is it a $50 concern? Is it a $5,000 concern? It actually matters, and you need to discuss it with your customer. Some of those concerns, quite frankly, are going to be credibility gaps, and you got to address those credibility gaps so that you can move on. You might offer a discount. That's the fastest and easiest way to get to improve the value vault balance. It's not something I'm going to advocate. It's not something I'm going to say you need to do it, but a discount may be a way to boost the value that sits in your value vault. And then, of course, you also need to consider the walkaway. If your value vault balance is irreparably damaged or in a distressful mode, I'm not sure if any of that worked, but if it's not good, one idea would be to leave. One idea would be to walk away from the opportunity and save yourself the time and hassle of trying to build value that's, quite frankly, is never going to win the day. All right, so in closing, I want to hit just a couple things. The first 3 things are ROI matters, metrics matter, quantifying value matters. The research is pretty clear. Our experience validates that research. I would be willing to bet that yours does too. So you have to ask yourself 3 questions as you're working with one of your prospects. The first thing that you ought to ask yourself is, when I'm working with this customer's what part of their income statement am I impacting? And have I shown that impact to the customer? Have I quantified the impact on the income statement for that customer? And if not, what can I do to get those numbers generated? What value killers exist within this customer is a thought process that I'm underestimating, right? That's the only way I'm going to get a true understanding of what my value vault balance is in the eyes of the customer. So I encourage you to ask those 3 questions to every opportunity you're working on as you move forward. Now, this brings us to the close of our webinar, and I did want to take a moment to open up the floor for just a couple of questions. I know I'm a little bit behind my schedule, but a few questions have come in, and I wanted to address them. The first one that I want to take a stab at is this one that says, is value killing on the revenue side temporary? Okay, so when we talk about revenue going down as a value killer, in other words, if I'm going to have a negative impact on the value killer, is it going to be a temporary fix, temporary problem? And I mentioned earlier that I kind of racked my brain to think about solutions that can have a negative impact on a company's ability to generate revenue. And I think that from our perspective, an example I gave, and I'm not sure this is going to be a global answer, but I believe from our perspective, it is temporary, right? When we go to a customer and they say, I'm nervous about pulling my people out of the field, they're going to lose revenue. It's real. It happens. It could happen. They're going to miss 2 days of selling, but something else is going to counterbalance it. It should not be a permanent side effect from implementing a solution. It should be a temporary problem. Now, I'm sure there probably are solutions that, you know, if I implement the solution, my overall revenue is going to go down, but my profitability is going to go up because I'm improving, you know, cost reductions, or I'm saving them on cost savings. But I would say the answer, I like to think the answer on that one is going to be yes. I also want to take, given that we've got just a little bit of time, I want to take one more question that we have on our list here. And let's see, the one that comes to mind is, if you recognize a potential value killer, but your customer has not yet recognized it, should you make it explicit? Normally I would throw this back to you guys, but since you can't answer, I will go ahead and give you my own thoughts on this one as well. So my thought is yes. And the reason that I say yes is because if you don't bring it up, then guess who's likely to do that? And that's going to be your competition. And so you'd much rather address these issues head on than, you know, just hope that they never rear their ugly heads, because your competitors are going to be out there, and your competitors are aware of your weaknesses. They're aware of the value killers that you often bring along as baggage. And if you can bring it up, address it, minimize it, put a small dollar figure to it if you can, then you're going to be way better off. Okay. So there's a few more questions that I want to answer, but I'm going to write in some of those answers to those of you who sent them. So be on the lookout for some of those answers if you would. And that brings me to the last slide, which is the thank you slide. Thank you very much for joining us today. I really am glad that you were here. I hope you took some things out of this that you can apply right away to some of your accounts, and some concepts and ideas for you to kind of help bring value to your organization. We look forward to seeing you on our next webinar, on Webinar Wednesday at the end of April. So be on the lookout for announcements and postings on that particular webinar. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again for joining us.